Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast from Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo. Recorded live every Monday night at 7 from the new Jake's Burgers in Aledo. And now, with Aledo Bearcats head coach Robby Jones, the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Haney to throw, and the pass is caught. Touchdown. Blake Burdine into the back right corner of the end zone. 16 yards on the touchdown pass from Haas Haney to Blake Burdine.
And that was one of the few touchdowns that the Bearcats scored in the first half of this past Friday's 70-0 victory, homecoming, if you will, over Saginaw. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Glad to have you with us again, once again, for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here on 92.1 Hank FM. Here at the new Jake's on 1187. Glad to have you with us, and we've moved to the patio, so as we get cooler, this will be even more of a thing to do, and it's actually not too bad here as we're recording this on this Monday, the 25th of September. And Coach, congratulations on getting to 5-0, and just talk a little bit about the way your team performed. Again, another business-like performance, and again, and an opponent that obviously you were clearly better than, and your kids handled it the way they should have.
Right. They came into the game, focused on the job at hand. And went and took care of business. And when they do that, against an opponent like Saginaw, you're going to see a lopsided score early, which we did. The defense played well. Offense, of course, was scoring at will. And, when things go well like that, it's a testament to, the kids' focus.
National District winning streak now is at 114 for the Bearcats. They're going to put that on the line this coming Friday night when they travel over to the Colony. For the first time ever, they'll be facing the Cougars over in their building. The 6:30 start pregame show on 92.1 Hank FM with the kickoff at 7 o'clock. By the way, we do want to mention that the downloads of the first four podcasts have been exceeding about 150 each week. This week we're about 100 on those downloads between the YouTube channel and then the podcast channel. So again, make sure that you get the word out to all of your friends as far as the podcast is concerned as we continue on through this. And there are some discussions about this, perhaps running throughout the course of the academic calendar. More to come on that as we go along here. And so, Coach, again, a 70-0 game, and I don't think I've ever seen a quarter though that jumped out to 39-0. Like that one. I mean, you ever been involved in a quarter that just erupted like that?
No, I can't remember one. We've had some high-scoring quarters before, but it felt like that first quarter took forever, and it kind of did. But it was great. Feeling, seeing the kids out there, performing the way they were performing.
Deja vu all over again because you scored the first four times that you had the ball against Saginaw. Scored the first four times that you had the ball against Azle the previous week. Is it just a matter of the way that the kids have done attention to detail, the way they've handled themselves, and the way that they come out with their approach, that the thing that you always look for beyond just maybe what the final score is going to be? Yeah,
I think it shows, the game plan. They knew the game plan well, and those are the things we're going to come out and run right away. Are some of the new things that Coach Williams has put in, and when they go out and execute them well, it's going to show with the first four scores.
And then your defense once again contributes to this. You get a safety on an intentional grounding in the end zone. I wasn't sure at the original time that I thought that Roman Morales had gotten outside the tackle box. Obviously, he did not. But then obviously you get the defensive score too. And I know we've talked about the defensive being a part of the scoring for this program. But is it just a matter of right place, right time, or how do you even describe how these scores come about?
The defensive scores, it's basically because, we got such good defense, and that's the case each and every year. We pride ourselves on playing good defense, and Coach McCone has done a really good job with those guys. He gets them motivated, gets them in the right spot, and those kids then go make plays.
Let's talk a little bit about in a game like this when it does get out of hand like this, and obviously we had a running clock in the second half, and that first half, which took, I don't know, maybe like an hour and 20 minutes or whatever it was, and then we had a long halftime because of the homecoming festivities. But then our second half was probably about 30 minutes in total between, I think there were maybe total of 4 possessions in that second half. For you all, when you all are in a situation like that, is it more or less incumbent upon the opposing coach to talk up to the officials about doing the clock, or you and the coach talking about that amongst yourselves and then going to the officials? does it vary opponent to opponent when it gets to a situation like that, or how does it evolve?
Yeah, it depends on who you're playing. You know, some coaches, you know, will talk about it maybe pregame if they feel like, you know, they're overmatched. I didn't talk with Coach Peters about that before the game, but he did say something to the officials, you know, when he came out at half, and I agreed that, yeah, it's probably best that we go ahead and run this clock. We're going to be able to get our second guys in. You know, we're going to get plenty of playing time with them. You know, it's just a matter of, hey, let's not try to embarrass the other team.
You know, for you all, 67 points in the first half is obviously more than what you would expect in any type of game, but the way that your kids approach the second half, very businesslike. And I want to ask you a little bit about maybe just Cole Crawford, because he's had a really quiet, good year for you. 3 out of 4 field goals. He had the 38-yarder in the second half against Saginaw. His only miss was from 37 a couple weeks ago against Azle, but that was pretty close. But, I mean, he has really kind of developed into a weapon for you, a guy that you can count on the more that he kicks and the more you put him in opportunities to succeed.
Right, yeah, and that's what we're looking for from Cole. You know, we knew he was a good kicker coming in. You know, he kicked a lot for us last year. We want to get him in some of those situations like that. You know, we got him in that 38-yard, you know, range last week, and we, instead of going for it on 4th down, we called him to go out there and make that kick, just to put him in those situations so that later on down the year, if we need one of those in a big-time game, he's used to going out and doing that. And
is that more or less where, and again, you know, he had the issue where, you know, he missed the extra point against Denton Guyer, but then comes back and drills the game-winning 21-yarder to beat Denton Guyer. It's all about confidence. To what extent do you think confidence, more than mechanics than anything else, is really the life of a kicker's success?
Yeah, I mean, a kicker's got to have confidence in himself going out there and making that. You know, if he goes out there thinking that there's no way he's going to make it and is too nervous about it, he's not going to make it. So, you know, we got to put him in the situations to where he has success, and that success will then lead to, you know, the confidence.
Last year when he was doing a lot of this, what do you think that meant to his growth, just as being a contributing member to this program, to where he is now?
Yeah, he got a lot of experience as a sophomore. You know, when ideally he would have been on the JV, getting the kicks on the JV, but when Clay didn't come out and kick at the beginning of the year, it allowed for Cole to get all that experience, and that experience has paid off for him this year, I think.
Yeah, and even when Clay was unavailable, I think Clay was not available for the Midlothian game last year. I think he was, and then obviously you guys win that game in dramatic fashion, but the way Cole handles himself in those playoff games, what do you think you saw from him in those playoff games?
You know, we saw what we, you know, expect out of him. We expect him to make big field goals when we need them, and to make every extra point that's available.
The one streak that did get snapped for the Bearcats this week was sophomore running back Ray Guillory. His streak of 100-yard games ended at 3. He only had 55, but he only had 3 carries in the game, and he was out of the game pretty much like the end of the first quarter. But I think he had 122 total yards between rushing and receiving, 4 touchdowns total for him. And I noticed, and more than once, I noticed it obviously on one of the touchdowns that he caught, that you all have split him out a little bit more. Is that a new wrinkle, or is that something you all have really worked on throughout the course of the offseason, or is this something that's fairly new?
It's something that we've worked on all year. You know, that's, you know, part of what we call our loaded package, where he's out of the backfield and into the receiver spot. So, you know, it's just something, you know, and we feel really good about Ray's hands. Ray has really good hands, and we can throw the ball to him at any time.
So let's talk a little bit about just the way that he has evolved. I mean, I know it seems like I talk about it every week, but in a game like this where he is so two-dimensional or dual-dimensional for you, what do you think the problem that he's going to pose for opposing defenses? Because they're going to have to try and take something away from him, but then if they do, then he can do the other.
Right, and that's the problem. You know, you try to take the run away, and then the pass is going to be there. You know, we have a great quarterback that can get the ball to our receivers. We have other talented receivers. You know, our problem right now is getting enough balls, you know, thrown to some of those guys. You know, we're not getting, you know, a lot of balls thrown to certain guys right now. We're working on that. You know, Ray only got, 3 carries last week. You know, I'm sure that's going to pick up this week because the Colony has a lot better defense than what we've seen the last couple of weeks. You know, so, you know, those things are going to come. You know, we just got to be patient. You know, and our guys got to realize that, hey, it's all about the team. It's not about me. You know, I'm going to get my touches, you know, eventually, and, you know, just roll with it like it is.
Speaking of getting touches, Caden Finley came back after missing the last 2 weeks with the ankle injury. kind of a little bit of a slow start. But then I think maybe that hitch route that went for 70 yards and the score that he was running away from everybody, that seemed to maybe seemed like to be a big lift off his shoulders there, and just kind of felt like he was getting into the season. What do you think that meant?
Yeah, it felt good. It felt good for me. It felt good for Coach Williams. It felt good for him. And we had tried to get him the ball, earlier a couple of times, and we had just misfired. They had played the play a little better than what we had thought they would. But to see him going down the sidelines, and pulling away from those guys, that felt really good. And I told him he looked fast on that play, and he goes, Coach, I had one similar to that last year against the Colony, and I got tackled at about the 4-yard line. He said, I wasn't going to let anybody catch me.
And the one thing about him is that I think people kind of maybe misjudge his speed because he's got such long strides. It seems like he doesn't appear to be running as fast as he really is.
Right, yeah. He's faster than what he looks sometimes, because of what you just said. It doesn't appear. That's kind of the Vince Young, type deal. Vince Young was out there running. People didn't realize how fast he was going because it looked just so effortless and so smooth. And Caden's kind of like that. He's a bigger guy, but he can run, and he can run away from people. And, we had him, and we misfired on a post route, where he had him beat and some other things.
In our second segment, we're going to be talking to a couple of the offensive linemen, both seniors, left tackle DJ Williams and center Alex Arana. And you have 4 seniors with this front. And I want to ask, and of course the only one is DJ's younger brother, who is a sophomore. But I want to ask you about, in terms of just gauging the chemistry of that group, when does it have to start? Does it have to start basically the first day of off season, or when do you think it really has to start for them to get what you want them to look like?
It was back during the spring. Those guys, we had 4 guys coming back that were starting for us at the end of the year last year, and we just needed to plug one more guy in there, and to do that, we had to move DJ from guard to tackle, and plug his brother in right next to him. But I think the chemistry of the group, was set up last year because, it's not very difficult to bring your brother in to play right next to you.
Right.
But, those guys worked well together last year. They've continued that into this year, and they're the heart and soul of our team. I tell everybody that all the time. All we talk about are these skill guys, the guys that are making the touchdowns, the guys that, are getting the big long runs and long catches. But you can't do all that without the guys up front, and those guys have a special place in my heart. I played a little offensive line, even though I don't look like it. I was a small town guy, 2A school. I was a tailback, when I was young, and eventually grew myself into an offensive guard. And, and I know what those guys go through on a daily basis, and it's not easy, but they never complain. All they do is they love football, and they get out there and play every each other day.
Now, for offensive linemen, we hear this so much at the college and the NFL level, where all these guys are learning to practice at all 3 positions, either the guard or the tackles or the centers. So is that something that your offensive linemen do? Because if they have to go into a pinch at a different spot, is that how? And to what extent do you work them out if you do that?
No, not all of them. Most of them do work either guard and tackle, or guard and center, or tackle and center. We have 4 or 5 different guys that are snapping during the day because we don't want to get into a situation where we lose our top 2 centers. That's actually happened to us before.
Right.
In 2000, which was my first year here. Our center goes down. He was also the deep snapper on the extra point, and somebody fell on his leg, and I don't remember what he hurt. He hurt his knee. I know that. But then we had to go to the number 2 center. Well, the number 2 center was our starting right guard, who had separated his shoulder. And so he couldn't snap. So we had gone all the way down to the 3rd center, which, is not ideal. And we had some issues with snaps.
Okay, and that obviously makes a huge difference then because of that. And, of course, Alex Arana, who was not playing on Friday against Saginaw, expected to be back this week against the Colony. One thing we wanted to point out with this Aledo offense, and we talk about, every coaches talk about how they want to get balance, but this is uncommon balance for the Bearcats this year. Through the first 5 games, they have rushed for 1,196 yards. They have passed for 1,174 yards. I've never seen a number that close, that deep into a season like that. Can you even explain that?
Well, it's basically the fact that we have really good receivers and we have a quarterback that can get the ball to them. We had something real similar to that in 2019, which was when Jake Bishop was a senior. We averaged right at, I think there was maybe 2 yards difference in pass and run that year. And we had Jace McClellan back there running the football. but we had Money Parks and we had JoJo Earl. We had Kate Jones.
Right.
And we were throwing the ball around quite a bit, that year. And we were really balanced, more than we normally were. And this year we're kind of the same way. We can run the ball and we can throw the ball, and we've got really good receivers that we can get the ball out to. And that's going to be a focus for us, is to try and get, the ball in those guys' hands.
Kind of a pick your poison scenario, if you
Right.
will. Or at least you hope so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice problem to have. I mean, Ray, the other night he only had 3 carries, but he was also big in the pass game. But, in the, Jonathan Gray type errors where, before the RPO, we're just handing the ball off to him, 15 times a game, and then in the big games he's going to go get 25 more. And we don't have to do that this year. We can throw the ball as much as we can run it.
The Bearcats, again, going to be on the road this Friday night. Actually, the first of 2 road games for them, because after this Friday at the Colony, they're going to be over at South Hills in Fort Worth. That'll be on Thursday, October the 5th, I believe that is. And so the Colony at 2-3, 2-1, huge 27-20 victory over Denton Ryan this past Thursday. And I think there were a couple of the thing that struck me about that win for them is the fact that they rallied from a 20-7 halftime deficit. Then Denton Ryan made a gamble deep in its own territory that went against it, and then obviously they got a 4th down stop right at the end of the game where Ryan was trying to tie it. We've talked about this. We even talked about this last year, where the Colony and the Denton Ryan kids have known each other for years, and last year's game was pretty tight, and Denton Ryan won, and then the Colony goes on the road up at Collins and wins that game.
Yeah, those guys are neighbors. They're right next to each other. Their boundaries back up to one another, so they're real familiar with one another. So the Colony kids are not scared of the Denton Ryan kids, and they go in and they get after each other. It was a really tight game last year as well. So the Colony played them, as tight as anybody played them last year, and they're excited right now. They just upset, somebody that they had never beat. And so they're going to come into our game with a lot of confidence. They're going to think that they have a chance against us, which sometimes, we play people, they don't think they have a chance coming in. This group thinks they have a chance to beat us, so it's going to be a challenge for our guys.
And I'm sure that score that you showed them and that all of your players saw got their attention more than anything else.
Yeah, it did. That was being talked about Friday morning, the fact that the Colony had just upset Denton Ryan, so the Colony is definitely better than they were last year.
They are led by quarterback Carson Cox, who's thrown for about 800 yards and 9 scores. Their running back, Kendrick McClodden, 415 yards on the ground, kind of like their go-to running back there. What do you see from them on offense?
Offensively, they're going to run a lot of a power run game, but then they also have a lot of RPO off of it. They try to throw deep balls. They got a couple of receivers that can run. And they try to throw a lot of deep balls to those guys, So, it's a challenge for us. The guys that I brought here last week, our 2 cornerbacks, they're going to have to do a really good job on their outside receivers. And then, up front, we can't get knocked off the football.
Defensively, what is the challenge that they provide?
They're pretty good defensively, and they're all over the place. They don't line up, in a base defense hardly at all. They're going to line up a little bit different each and every snap. Even when you get in the same formation a couple of times, they're going to line up different to it every time. So the problem there is, you got to identify the front, you got to identify where the linebackers are, and you got to know your assignment and go execute your assignment.
We'll look forward to it. Again, the Bearcats on the road this coming Friday night, 6:30 start is the pregame show when they will travel to take on the Colony. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock at Tommy Briggs Stadium. I don't know if you ever knew Tommy Briggs, the late head coach there. Super guy. I mentioned it in my early days of reporting. I had a chance to visit with Tommy. But obviously, when the stadium bears his name, it kind of tells you what people thought of him around there.
Yeah, and I think Coach Buchanan coached for him. Back in the late 80s, Coach Buchanan was at the Colony when the Colony first opened up, so he worked for him, so he knows him.
All right, sounds good, Coach. Well, listen, again, thanks so much, and we'll look forward to seeing it all develop on Friday.
All right, thank you.
All right, head coach Robby Jones with us. On the other side of this break, we will be joined by offensive lineman DJ Williams and center Alex Arana. That is DJ Williams, the left tackle. He's the commit to the University of Louisiana. And then Alex Arana, who is going to be back in the lineup this coming Friday. Stick around with us. The players are coming up next on the second segment. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches podcast on 92.1 Hank FM.
Haney will dump the screen. It's caught. This is going to be a big gain for Guillory, and he'll walk it in. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats.
That was one of the early touchdowns that the Bearcats scored in this past Friday's 70-0 victory over Saginaw High on homecoming. I'm Kevin Lonnquist back here for the second segment of the Aledo Coaches Show here on 92.1 Hank FM. Want to remind you that H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. We want to give you also an update on some Aledo alums. We talked about a couple weeks ago where Braden Fowler-Nicolosi got the start a couple weeks ago against Colorado in Boulder. He actually had a wonderful football game. He will threw for well than 300 yards. This past week against Middle Tennessee State, a game that Colorado State won 31-23. Fowler-Nicolosi, 321 yards through the air, a couple of touchdowns. And again, back-to-back 300-yard games to him, so congratulations. He actually led them to a comeback win on the road down there in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Of course, Jace McClellan playing for Alabama, probably one of his better games as a member of the Crimson Tide. 105 yards and a touchdown as the Crimson Tide beat Ole Miss by a score of 24-10. And then Chris Wright, you might remember him from days gone by, one of the defensive tackles. He got a tackle in a victory over Louisiana Tech on September 16th. North Texas had the week off, but he's getting some burn, starting to get him into that rotation there for the North Texas defense. So that's your Aledo alumni update. We're now pleased to be joined by our two big guns of the offensive line. That is, to my immediate left is the senior center, Alex Arana, and to my far left is the left tackle, the blind side, DJ Williams. Give it up to these young gentlemen here. All right, guys, so let's start with you. DJ, I'm going to start with you because you made the switch from guard to left tackle, which is obviously going to be the most important spot because you've got to protect your quarterback's blind side since you got a right-handed quarterback in Hoss Haney. When you made the switch, what was the greatest technical challenge that you had to go through in order to feel comfortable with that?
For me, the biggest challenge was really just getting the plays down again because I played tackle most of my life, so it really wasn't that big of a deal for me. It was really just learning who to block and how to block them was the biggest change because guard will block a D tackle instead of a D end, and so some of the times we would call some of our plays and I still block it like a guard, and then it would mess up the whole play because I'd leave a guy unblocked. So that was the biggest thing for me.
Okay, and Alex, I think second year for you to start as a center. So let's talk a little bit about it. Didn't play against Saginaw, but you're expected back this coming Friday against the Colony, and so just working in the middle of the offense because you're the one that makes all the calls in terms of what the look is going to be. So just take us through that responsibility and how you get the other four lined up.
Yeah, just going through all the calls, just breaking down everything. It's a big job sometimes. It gets kind of confusing. You just got to calm down and be loud out there, honestly. You got to lead the whole line. I mean, they help me a lot, honestly. It's really fun being out there. I got to call if it's a 4-1, 4-2, 3-3 stack, bear, 3-2, all the sorts of fronts,
Now, players, when they're looking at film and breaking down opponents the coming week, they're going to look for several keys. So when you're able to identify what the defensive alignment looks for, what are you mainly looking at where maybe the linebacker is, the middle linebacker is, or where a safety's position? What are you looking at?
I look at a lot of things, to be honest. I look at key tells that the linebacker has, key tells that the D-line has, any type of moves that they like to swim, if they like to push-pull on me. Key tells, in case they shift ever, so we could, call that out right before the play snaps because the Colony, I mean, even they may not have some of the most athletic guys sometimes, but they still are really athletic. They like to do a lot of confusing stuff. They'll switch from a 4 to a 3 front a lot, so we got to be ready for that.
Yeah, and DJ, I was going to say, because Coach Jones mentioned this on our first segment about the fact that you're going to be facing a defensive front in the Colony. We'll talk about them here for right now, but the fact that when a team like this changes its looks like they do, they could go as many as 15 different looks in a game in terms of they could have 2 down linemen, they could have 3, they could have 4. What are you all looking for in terms of how to adjust to that on the fly? Because it really is adjusting on the fly.
Well, this week specifically, we're looking at how the linebackers line up and which linebackers come down, which linebackers are staying back, and which ones shift over in their positions. If one of the Mike linebackers, the middle linebackers come up, we'll call it either a 4-1 or a 3-3 stack. But if one of the outside linebackers come up, it could be a 3-2 or a 4-2 because the inside linebackers are still up, and that's how we're going to block it, depending on really just the two inside linebackers.
So I want to ask you guys a little bit about blocking for this offense. I don't know if you got a chance to hear how balanced this offense is. You know, as crazy balanced as this is, only a 22-yard difference between run and pass. What is the advantage of knowing that this team is so balanced like this to block for it? Or what is the challenge? I'll start with you, Alex, about that.
I really think it's awesome having some studs in the backfield, Ray and Hawk, and then having stud receivers, Finley, Tyson Timms, Colt McCoy, I mean, everyone. It really makes it easy. I mean, first thing is we want to run the ball first. That's my main thing. Always love running the ball, but, you know, if that doesn't always work out, we always have the long bomb down the field or the short slant, you know. It's really, I think this is one of the best offenses Aledo has ever seen, and
that's
real
saying
proud
something.
of it.
And that's saying something because, like, the 2013 team had over 1,000 points, and this group may not make that, but it's pretty darn proficient the way it does it. Again, for those who didn't hear, through the first 5 games, 1,196 yards rushing, 1,174 yards passing. So I'm going to ask you on this, DJ, as far as like different styles, because you obviously had to get comfortable with Ray Guillory coming in, and his style is obviously different than anybody else or whatever. And then you have to do the same thing with Hawk Daniels because his style is different. And then you got to account for Haas's style too. So are there different things that you look for as a blocker in terms of what their tendencies are, what they like to do with the football, so that you can give them that crease?
No, sir. Really, what I do is my big thing is opening either if it's running to the left side, it's opening the gap that's supposed to be open. So if we're trying to run outside, I'm trying my hardest to hook the end and seal the whole box so that there is a void, like almost a hole in between the line and the receivers out there, so that they can, whoever runs through there has a wide open lane. But if it's run to the right, I make sure I go out of my way and I try to make a cutback lane. It's like it will be like a 60 zone or something. And so I'll dig the end, and instead of just digging him, I'll dig him and try to drive him back towards the opposite sideline so that in case they do need a cutback, there's a wide cutback lane for anybody who's running the ball.
It's perfect for you, Alex, because since you have AA as your initials, that it's kind of like you're king of the A gaps there. And so I want to ask you a little bit about, because obviously so much of a team's success is going to be made being able to run between those A gaps. What's the important thing between you and your guards to make sure that chemistry is flowing so that you get the holes that you're looking for in those two tight spots?
I mean, it's honestly everything. I mean, I love my guards, Peyton Williams, DJ's brother, Carter Campbell. I mean, I couldn't ask for 2 better guys to be beside me. They know what they're doing. Carter's one of the most smart people I know, and then Peyton is a tremendous athlete. So our chemistry and that being very important is just a really good thing. I mean, we have to make the A gap and B gap work all the time because, you know, our bread and butter play is 60 and 61 zone, and that's my favorite play to run because you just run up the gut or pull it with Haas because, you know, he has wheels. And
I was going to say, and in fact, you make a good point about with Haas, because obviously you're snapping to him pretty much out of the shotgun with the exception of a play here and there. It's the timing and the chemistry of that, because you've got to be sure that either you hear him or if it's on a silent count that you've got to look for some sort of physical movement from him in order to get it back to him so the play can get moving quickly as possible. What's that like working with him as far as just that, because that's where it all starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I started building that chemistry with Haas last year. I mean, I was a first-year starter. It was his first start at quarterback last year, and I feel like we really got to build that chemistry. I mean, he's probably the best quarterback I've ever played with, probably one of the best players I've ever played with. And, you know, he puts his hand down, I'm ready to go, and that's how it all plays out.
How much have you guys worked on him just working under center with you?
Usually in, like, short yard situations or in the red zone or on goal line. We do it a ton, honestly. We may not do it every time, but like when we get in those situations, I'm really, really confident in me getting that snap to him, and he stays in there. He doesn't go out too fast, so I think the chemistry there is really good.
You know, DJ, we saw a couple weeks ago in the district opener against Justin Northwest, where you guys really, and this has seemed, I mean, I've been doing Aledo football for the last 18 seasons, but it seemed like there was that conscientious effort to really make sure the running game starts to become established here. That's because this is what Aledo has done for as long as it's been successful. But it seemed like that's kind of like let's just get it going here. Let's start sending the message. Is that kind of how it started with? Is that the way it's always been for as long as you've been in this program? Get going with the district to send the physical message of what this team is intending to do.
Yes, sir. Like, I think the biggest message is establishing the run game so that our pass game, whenever we do need it, it's wide open. Because Aledo is known for their running right down your throat. Their bread and butter is 60 and 61 zone, like Alex said earlier. So, like, whenever we get in our real tight situations, that's our main play. It doesn't matter if it's third and 8 or 1st and 10. Like, I mean, we're gonna run the 60 and 61 zone every play. So, like, establishing our run game earlier in the season is very important because it puts people kind of on notice that whenever they need to stop us, they have to stop our run game, and it's a very volatile run game.
And I was going to say, that's what really made the difference in a lot of these deep playoff runs. I mean, when you guys really needed it, when you Lubbock Cooper in that cold weather out there, out in Snyder, and then the slugfest against Midlothian the week after, you really seen that's where the running game really had to make that. And even in the district game where you guys were able to spring Haas for that long touchdown run at Denton Ryan. Actually, you have a big smile on your face on that, Alex. I want to ask you about that play. I'm freelancing here on that play against Denton Ryan last year that sprung, I think it was 87 yards. But take us through that play. And, DJ, you were part of that play as well. But what do you remember of that play last year? Because that was pretty much like the play that won the district championship for you guys. And so what do you remember about that play?
It was a really cool play, to be honest. I mean, the how fast Haas is just amazes me sometimes. Like, I'll see creases in, like, holes that are really tiny, and the way he gets through them and the way he just runs just amazes me. It leaves me dumbfounded. And that specific play just, I think, cemented how well we run the ball with running backs and quarterbacks, and I think it really put the whole state on notice because, I mean, last year we were kind of underdogs. I mean, it was a brand-new team. We had some returning starters, but that kind of cemented us and put us on the map, I feel like.
And what do you remember about that play, DJ?
The thing I remember about that play is I was running with Haas because I was blocking my guy. And
Did you outrun him?
No. I remember the guy, he ran right past us, and it was a play where I was supposed to block my guy and then go. And so I was just running behind him, and I was keeping up decently well. And then out of nowhere, he just hit his second gear, and I was like, yeah, I'm not even going to try and keep up. But I just stopped running and started jogging. I was like, I'll get ready for PAT.
All right, so you were like the rest of us, just being a spectator watching that play that unfold.
Sir.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your recruiting features here. And DJ, well, obviously you're committed to the University of Louisiana down in Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns. And just talk about that decision that you made, the other schools that you were seriously considering before you committed to the Raging Cajuns. Take us through that process.
So the big three schools that are, I guess, real big four schools I was really considering was UL, UTSA, UNT, and Arizona State University. And I chose UL because all four of those schools really were the exact same. They had really great coaches. They had all of them had a really great culture there. They had history of winning. But the reason I chose UL really was my older brother goes there. So it was just like I knew that I was going to have that, like, person there to make sure that I'm always on top of my stuff, making sure I wasn't falling behind in classes, making sure I wasn't lagging during practice, making sure that I wasn't just, how my dad calls it, pulling a DJ sometimes. He really chose that there because it's almost like I'm taking a little bit of piece of home with me. So that even if I do get homesick, I won't be as homesick. I'll still have my older brother there.
I'm going to sidestep for a second. Playing with your brother Peyton, who's right next to you at left guard. What's that been like? I mean, you're a senior this year, so it's kind of like some emotional value to it. But just what has that been like to play with him this year?
It's been fun. It's been real fun, and it's funny because sometimes one of us will run the wrong play, and then we'll start bickering at each other. And then, like, after the game, people will be like, "Do you fight a lot at home?" We're like, "No, just on the football field during the game sometimes." But it's been really fun. You know, he's understanding the offense, and you know, he does his job. He does his job, and he does it better than trying to think. He does his job the best to his abilities and stuff, and so it really helps where we work together. And then even on plays where we're not working together per se, we still try to think. So, like, we'll open gaps that otherwise would be closed because we've grown up around we've had the same coaches our whole life, so we understand football in the same way.
So in this bickering, Alex, you have to step in there and play peacemaker with those two?
I mean, sometimes. I mean, during that Azel game, they started really getting at each other's throats.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your recruiting situation here. Alex, I'll finish up with you on your situation in Louisiana here in just a minute, DJ. But, Alex, you just got an offer today on Monday, so just talk about the offer you got today and the other schools that have offered you.
Yeah, I just got one from a D3 school up in Central College in Iowa. It's my brother's alma mater, so it was actually pretty special. Been talking to him over for a year now, and I really know the coaching staff really well, so I'm really happy I got that. And I got one last week, 5 days ago, Austin College. I have Centenary, talking to Wartburg College, one of the top D3s. I had a little conversation with Mayor Hart and Baylor, and yeah.
Okay, so for you, I mean, this opportunity to play at the next level, what does that mean to you, when you have that kind of interest? Obviously, the program's success plays a role in this, but obviously you've got to have the ability to do it as well. But what does that mean to you to have that kind of opportunity in front of you to play in college?
Honestly, it means a lot. You know, I've been working my butt off since middle school, honestly, since I remember. I told myself, I kind of made a little vow to myself in 7th grade that I really wanted to play at the next level, and I'm just going to go and see where the Lord's plan takes me on that. And I've been praying a lot about it. So after the season, we'll see what happens. And, yeah.
It's a situation, too, where maybe you don't have to decide in December because these are D3 schools where they can kind of wait and you can kind of wait and kind of evaluate. I would think that kind of plays to your advantage then, just to kind of evaluate more schools and kind of just see where is the best fit for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then for you, DJ, as far as with Louisiana, and obviously as big size as you are, 6'4", 300, I think it is. In terms of other schools that have I know you've just told me before we started this second segment that you're pretty locked into Louisiana because of your older brother being down there. But have there been any other Division I schools, maybe a Power 5 school, that have tried to at least get your attention over these last couple of weeks? And what do you have to anticipate, perhaps all the way up to signing day in December?
ASU has started recruiting me more and more again, but other than that, I think I really will stay with UL. It's where I want to go. They're a great school. They have a history of winning, and they also have a history of developing players and putting it in the league. So I think that's where I want.
Yeah, and you obviously are, and you guys are for you, and then you'll soon join them. But I mean, currently this program has 7 guys that are committed to either Division I schools or FCS programs, and then you've seen a lot of guys go through the recruiting process before you. So I'm going to start with you, Alex, about just watching those other guys go through the process and how they've dealt with it, and then things that you've learned just watching them handle when it's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of attention, just trying to tune out the noise and kind of compartmentalize everything.
Honestly, it's been a big help, especially with last year's seniors. Isaac Stone, who was our left tackle last year, he was honestly kind of a big inspiration in the way he handled himself on and off the field with those offers. Ansel Dimmu, who's now at Washington State, he honestly handled those offers really well. He got a ton of offers at one time. I remember he had 10 in a few weeks span. It was crazy, and he always stayed calm about it, and he always told me that he's going to trust in God and wherever decision he makes with that.
And then for you, DJ, you kind of had that run of a lot of offers coming your way. How did you handle that?
Well, I think I handled it pretty well, but I think the 3 biggest takeaways was, 1, ask God for guidance. He's going to put you at the best place for you, no matter – it doesn't matter where you think you should go. He's going to put everything in place to where, yeah, you may have all these Power 5 offers, but maybe that's not the school for you. Maybe going to a group of 5 is better for you than going to a Power 5. And then the second thing was, don't let offers get to your head. It was you have them, but just how you got them, they can be easily taken away just by one little mistake, one wrong thing said. And another thing is, these coaches talk to kids all day. So, don't overthink anything. Don't overthink about what you're saying, because that's whenever you wind up saying the wrong thing. So.
Okay. All right, guys. Okay, just a quick word about just getting ready for the Colony this week. I mean, what's going to be the thing that you guys feel like you have to do on the offensive line to help you guys put yourselves in a position so that you can get to 6-0? Alex, I'll start with you. What do you have to do?
I mean, it's run first, That's my main thing. I mean, before every game, I have this hat that says, excuse my language, run the damn ball. I mean, that's what I try to do. We try to do that every week. I mean, I know our Coach Wheeler and Coach Corley, put that into our minds every game that we want to dominate them. And kind of make them not want to play the game anymore on the run game. But, sometimes that doesn't work out during the game, and we go towards the pass. And the Colony's a really good team. I mean, they're a really solid team. They upset Denton Ryan, who's probably one of the other toughest teams in the district. So I think it'll be a really good game. And, yeah.
And then for you, DJ, obviously when the Colony won that game, I'm sure that got everybody's in that locker room's attention on that. So what's your approach to this one coming up?
So the biggest thing is, as a team, we all have to stay calm. They've obviously proven that they're a very good team, that they can upset the toughest teams in our district. The thing is staying calm, not getting too high, not getting too low. It doesn't matter if you have one bad play, get ready for the next one. Because, yeah, one bad play is okay, but if you have 2, 3, 4 bad plays, that's a whole drive, and then that's whenever they wind up scoring, and that's when bad things happen.
One last question for you about Louisiana and your arrival there. Are you looking to arrive in Lafayette in January or June?
I'm going in January.
You are going in January. Okay,
yes,
just like a lot of these other guys from this team, too. Okay.
Yes,
These two gentlemen are seniors. They are two anchors of the Aledo Bearcats 2023 offensive line. To my immediate left is the center, Alex Arana. To my far left is the left tackle, DJ Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for these two young men. We want to remind you that H5 Sports Bar and Eye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporter of the Aledo Bearcats. Again, the Bearcats on the road this coming Friday night, a 6:30 start at the Colony. That's the pregame show on 92.1 Hank FM. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock with yours truly and Kyle Hicks and Mercedes Meyer. The Deacon has all the stats, and Hayden Posey are quite novice, or not novice, but are quite knowledgeable engineer. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thank you for being with us. Next week, we'll be back here on the patio for another edition of the KTFW Aledo Coaches Show here. And thank you all for being a part of this. We'll see you all next week. So long for now.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo, with Bearcats head coach Robby Jones and the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us in person every Monday night at 7 from the new Jake's Burgers, 601 FM 1187 in Aledo. And then listen to every Aledo Bearcats game, home and away, live on 92.1 Hank FM, on the free 92.1 Hank FM app, or online at 921hankfm.com. The Aledo Coaches Show podcast is a production of Real Country, Hank FM.